Good morning again.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes, Professor Celia, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
morning.
I will start with your introduction, then you can certainly start with your presentation and as you want. So it will be 1 hour slot for you, 45 minutes presentation and 15 minutes for question and answering session. So you can organize your time as you want. So I would like to begin with your introduction. Dear audience, we have Professor Dr. Celia Ramos from all the way from Portugal. So Professor Celia Ramos is an adjunct professor from School of Management, Hospitality and Tourism, University of Algarve, Portugal. And she will be talking to us on the topic of business intelligence in the tourism industry. I would like to tell you Professor Dr. Celia Ramos is graduated in computer engineering from the University of Coimbra, obtained her master's in electrical and computer engineering from the Higher Technical Institute, Lisbon University, and the PhD in economics in the University of Algarve, Faculty of Economics, Portugal. Holds a professional diploma in digital marketing from Digital Marketing Institution in Dublin, Ireland. She is adjunct professor at the Marketing School of Management, Hospitality and Tourism, also in the University of Algarve, where she lectures computer science, mainly information system, business intelligence, information system for management support. Certainly, Celia is the president of the Pedagogical Council since 2017, director of the degree in marketing and member of the coordination of the master's degree in hospitality management since 2015 of the School of Management, Hospitality and Tourism. Our areas of research interest area and special interest includes conceptions and development of information system, tourism information system, big data, business intelligence, electronic tourism, website evaluation, marketing, econometric modeling, and panel data models. Celia Ramos has published in the fields of information system, marketing, and tourism. Namely, she has authored a book chapters, conference papers, and journal articles. She is a reviewer of several scientific journals. At the level of applied research, she has participated in several funded projects, such as Mobile 5 Senses, Augmented Reality System for Museums, project funded by the Portugal 2020, and so on. So now it is my immense pleasure to have you on board, Professor Celia, and we are really proud to have you with us on our virtual platform. I would like to request you to begin with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First, I want to thank to Professor Yusuf Khan, to my compliments to my fellow speakers, and thanks to the participants for their presence. My presentation aims to demystify business intelligence and show how it can be applied in tourism. Can I share my presentation?
Please.
Okay. Okay. Well, my name is Celia Ramos. I'm from the south of Portugal, Faro. I teach in the University of Algarve. It's a warm country. It have nice pictures. You are welcome to visit us. Well, my presentation is to talk about business intelligence. In the tourism, as Professor Alfonso said, it is necessary to quantify, to define indicators. Then my presentation, I think it is in the right place. Well, I will talk about the current society, information knowledge, business intelligence. Why? Because for me, this is a process that starts in the present with the characteristics of the present society, and we need to define tools, indicators, among other tools, to analyze our environment. I will try to use the 25 minutes. If I spend more, please tell me. Well, in our days, when we travel, we have several phases for I consider 3 phases, but there are some authors that consider another phases. In these 3 phases, we start to dream about the next travel. We go to the computer, we find places, gastronomy, art plans, among other product characteristics. Well, with the information about products, complementary products like dishes, events, we decide what we want to visit, and then we purchase. This is for me the first phase of to do a travel. Then we go to the destination. Until this moment, we only have information. Information, information, information. During the trip, we go to the hotel, we go to the restaurants, we go to bars, we go to museums, we go to events. In this phase starts to our memories, to create our memories and our history of this travel, and increase or decrease our satisfaction. In this period, our memories are created in digital devices with information. Information like picture, information like movies, information like text. But we create our memories in digital devices. Then we go to home after the trip, and sometimes during the trip, we share our personal story like text, videos, pictures with family and in the web. Well, the information associated to the travel is huge information. We search for information, we communicate with people, we search for information about experience, about bookings, about events, among others components. This is important because are factors that affect our positive experience. For example, the authenticity of the destination in terms of culture, gastronomy, lifestyle, to interact with residents and tourists, to know what it is important to see, like architecture, landscape, among other characteristics. This we are talking about information, knowledge is information, interact with residents is with information by devices, for example. Well, in this context, we're talking about a smart tourism environment and a smart tourism destinations. This environment combined with the technology associated with Industry 4.0 creates an environment where the data are around us, in our devices, in our PCs, in the community, among other places. Well, this data is collected, exchanged, and pre-processing. These data, these collections of data can contribute to help to define strategies to the smart destinations and contribute to the organizations, to the industry to define new strategies to survive in our days. And all these data contributes to the smart experience. Well, in this context, what differentiates a tourism organization from its competitors in many cases is the quality and the opportunity of the information. The information makes possible to know about the tourists, to know, to decide which are the products more important, which are the service that is more appropriate to the customers. It is important to identify new markets, to increase our competitive capacity, and in our days, in times of crisis, helps to guarantee the survival. This model, it's a model that I consider very important because we talk about data, we talk about information, but the data or the information, it is important to know the context, because an information, if we don't have the context, is only data. Then data in a context is information. Information, knowing the meaning, becomes knowledge. Knowledge, knowing the vision of the organization, becomes wisdom. In other words, intelligence. And combined with decisions, helps to define strategic plans for the future. For me, this pyramid is very important. Helps to understand the past and the present to define new visions, new strategy for the future. Well, talking about information, quantity and quality, talking about quantity and quality about information, there are two areas that are very important: knowledge management and business intelligence. When I talk about business intelligence, I need to talk a little about knowledge management. Why? Because in this area of knowledge helps me to increase, to define indicators associated to the intellectual capital of the organizations. That includes a set of intangible assets or competencies that are fundamental to obtain competitive advantage to the tourist companies. It's for all the companies, but in this context, I like the tourism company. Well, business intelligence is a system that combines data with analytical tools in order to provide information relevant to this to the decision making, and with the aim to improving the quality and availability of this information. Information without quality is not information and don't help. Well, in the area of knowledge management, this area is also important because helps to improve the decision making, helps to increase the organization ability to solve problems, helps to increase the organization capacity to innovate. How it is possible to innovate? With differentiation, with the offer of new service, with the offer of new products. For example, innovations in tourism, facial recognition at the airports, sites that aggregate and monitor the price of the accommodations, sites that organize trips inspired in Netflix films, a site that sponsor those who write about travel, hotel bookings via voice assistant on Google, a robot that welcomes the customer to the hotel, a check-in by guest entrance to the hotel with near-field communications, check-in by smartphone as long as the passenger enters the airport of start and is tracking the place where it is located. The passenger entered to the airport and then the check-in in the hotel starts to begin. Well, also in the knowledge management, I talk about indicators. I have some examples, only some examples. I present only three types of intellectual capital indicators, but there are more. For example, capital relational, it is important to define the quantity and quality of relation between the organization and all the tourism stakeholders. Examples of indicators: online sales in %, average customer loyalty in years, a number. Structural capital, formal aspects of the organizational, physical, social, political, and cultural spaces. For example, investment in new markets, in euros for me, of course. Number of ideas suggested spontaneously by employees. This is very important, the participation of the employees of the organizations. In number, for example. Another kind of indicator, human capital, competencies and motivation of the members of the organization. For example, global innovation capacity in percent. It is the means of ratio between the number of new ideas generated and those effectively implemented through the new product or service. These are only a few examples. There are lots of more examples of capital indicate, intellectual capital. Then I enter business intelligence. As I said, the two areas are important. In terms of business intelligence is a set of tools and technologies and operations which enable a company to collect and then present valuable data of a tourism organization in a dashboard or report. It is a process, has an architecture that I present here. Then we start by data source. This is more interesting. I have a first phase, data integration, where I will collect the data in several sources, for example, in databases, Excel files, CRM, Word files, among other sources. The data are extracted from their sources, then transformed and loaded in another structure. This process of extraction, transformation, and load is called ETL. In terms of transformation, most of the time is to clean the data, to standardize the data, to transform the empty values in not informed, among other operation similars. Then the data was transformed and loaded in a big data warehouse, a big database, also called data warehouse, that collects the information of the organization. This data warehouse can present a multidimensional structure or a relations structure. In terms of multidimensional structure, the data are loaded in tables called fact tables and dimensional tables. The data collected in the data warehouses can be divided in data marts. For example, the information about the department, marketing, human resources. And this part of the data warehouse are called data mart. After that, the analysis can be do it by OLAP cubes or by data mining. The results can be combined and produce the reporting or the dashboards. This is the architecture of the business intelligence. This is talking about ETL that I talked in the last diapositive. Then I went to the data warehouse. In the data warehouse, it is necessary to use the technology that is appropriated. In this context is the OLAP, online analytical processing. This technology permits to create the codes to analyze information about different perspectives, dimensions. For example, if I analyze the information about customers, the dimension is customers. If I analyze the information about products, the dimension is products. It is the example of two kinds of dimensions. Cubes allow to analyze the facts available in the fact tables in different dimensions. The OLAP can be applied to databases, to data warehouse, or to data mart. Then I went to OLAP. OLAP, this is the most interesting picture about OLAP. I have the fact tables. This is facts numbers. This is the operations about our business. And this is the dimension tables, are the dimensions that characterize our business data. For example, this I have the customer, I have another table about products, about another table about suppliers, another table about sales is facts. This characterize my data. And then this is an example of the cube structure. It is called cube because it's the geometrical structure that we can represent and we can understand. For example, this is a cube. I can analyze OLAP by a point. For example, how much double rooms, product 1, are sold on New Year's Day, date D1, to tourists from England, country 1. In this is a point of my cube. Another kind of analysis. What is the total sales of the traditional dish, product P1, on New Year's Day, date D1, in the capital, city 1. It is a point in my cube. But most of the times I want to analyze, for example, a segment. And then I'm working with slice or slicing. It is a segment, for example, I want to know the quantity or the amount of sale of the traditional dish in Faro. Faro is the city where I live, on all the year. Well, all the year is not only 1 point, but all the year. This is only examples. There are more operations to do in OLAP, where I applied OLAP techniques. For example, in airlines, I want to know the average airport departure delay. I want to know which company has the highest average departure delay for a given airport. What is the average delay in departure and average delay in flights by airport? In terms of restaurants and gastronomy, for example, what is the quantity prepared, consumed, what's left per month? For example, the last part is very important, taking in consideration the Sustainable Development Goals of UNWTO. Quantity prepared and consumed per restaurant. In terms of accommodation, for example, average price per district and per stars, number of hotels by district and stars. In terms of marketing, customer analyzer or supplier analysis. If I have time in the end, I will present some examples that I teach to my students. I use the Power BI software for preparing these OLAP results. Well, I talk about OLAP, but I also can conjugate with data mining techniques. Data mining techniques consist of looking for relationships and pattern, or also find models in the data, contribute to extract knowledge that previously are unknown, but it is knowledge with potential to define new strategies. Why this is important? Because we are working with a huge amount of data, very high number of data dimensions, and the data are heterogeneous and distributed. Well, this is the process of data mining. This is known for the persons who work in this area. This is a process. I have the data. Sorry, this is in Portuguese, but I can explain. This is the data. The data we can collect from the data warehouse. We choose the data to analyze. We transform. For example, if I'm working with the data of the booking and the data of the TripAdvisor, to compare the rankings, I need to normalize the data. This is an example of the transformation that I have to do the data. Well, I have the data transformed and I apply the data mining techniques to find patterns in the data, to identify, for example, who is the person that buy rooms at Friday night, for example. Are couples, are single, etc. And then I have knowledge to define new strategies. I have two kinds of tasks in data mining, descriptive or forecast. Descriptive allow to identify rules that describe the data. Forecasts allow the definition of models with the capacity to predict the future values of the variable. These data mining techniques use machine learning, artificial intelligence models, pattern recognition, statistics, and database management systems. This is an example to show some potentialities for the who are interested in this area, or maybe in the future will be interested in this area. We have two kinds of techniques: supervised. For example, data has a category or number has a level. In this kind of techniques, the most common is classification and regression. Classification, for example, separate customers by category: good client, bad client, more or less client. I have the characteristics to the client. In this situation, I have the characteristics for a good client, a bad client, or a more or less client. Regressions, I can predict the number of bookings for the next holiday. In terms of unsupervised techniques, the data has no label. For example, I have the characteristics of the customers, but I don't have the definition. In this case, I use clustering to divide the customers into similar groups. Also have dimension reductions. In this context, for example, find the best combination of features in customers that let them to choose a particular destination. Who are the person who goes to a destination? This helped me to identify. And in the last but not least, association, identify sequences, find the best combination of consumers' choice that allow you to recommend other products. You see a lot of this kind of algorithms in shops. For example, Amazon, when we went to find a product and recommend another product. This is association rules that are implemented. Also, we can apply to the tourism sector. Well, who talks about data mining also talk a little about text mining. Text mining, it is used to discover previously unknown information. For example, is in the social media, where the most famous or used is the sentiment analysis to define if a commentary is positive, negative, or neutral. This is used to detect the sentiment associated to a tourism destination. For example, social media monitoring about a product or about a brand to identify how the customer evaluate the services helps to do market research. This is only a few examples because there are more applications. In terms of applications and considering all the data mining that I talk a little. For example, in accommodations, we can predict the expected sales of a number of rooms in next holiday. Human resource management, taking in account forecasts. Airlines, we can do forecast how many customers will buy a trip to the Algarve in next summer, for example. Gathering information from the most chosen destinations, forecast of sales of air ticket and distribution of seats, scheduling cruise. In gastronomy and restaurants, optimization of meal production capacity. What is the sentiment about the destination? What is the customer opinion about the dish? Also in the marketing that is necessary to the tourism industry, classification of tourism segments to discover the characteristics that allows grouping them. Well, in a summary, OLAP enables complex analysis of data, dynamics at that levels, but is based on the present and in the past data. By other side, data mining allows the generation of hypotheses about the data, hypotheses about the future. This is two examples. Lets you to find out the factors that most influence sales volume, discover hidden relationships and patterns that are not obvious. Well, we are in the last phase, analytical tools. With the techniques that I talked before, we can produce analytical reports, also known by enterprise reporting and management reporting. This kind of reporting can include OLAP techniques, data mining techniques, and can include the key performance indicators, where I can include the intellectual capital indicators that I talked in the beginning of my presentation. This is very important for the competitive environment. These reports include capital indicators. Well, as conclusions, some questions and some challenge. I didn't a conclusion of my presentation because it's un pouco talking about the concepts, but I have several challenges. Why should tourism industry invest in business intelligence? For example, to identify the destinations that are most sought after, to identify how long the reservations are made, how many days before the reservations are made. To identify the hotel, restaurant, agencies that generate the most revenue, to identify the product, event, dish that gives more profit, to compare with the homologated periods and see if the variation is positive or negative, to compare booking with cancellations, to have an idea what is the behavior between bookings and cancellations in a specific period. Why should travel agencies invest in business intelligence? Can help to differentiate in this time of crisis, for example. It can be a way to survive. Can configure the pricing strategies more precisely. Can help to discover new trends in the market. Can help to define the right promotion to the right customer. Why should hotels invest in business intelligence? To control the past and present, to define strategy for the future, to use their data to their advantage to create a vision of the future, to create a holistic view of the entire hotel, including tangible and intangible assets, to create a sustainable business, and has the last challenge to act in accordance with sustainable development goals defined by UN WTO. And why should airlines invest in business intelligence and restaurants? I left these questions for the audience. And then if I have some minutes, this is my presentation. If I have some minutes, I want to show a little more. It is possible?
Yes, yes, Professor Celia,
Yes?
you still have some more minutes, so you can proceed with your
okay.
appendix.
I will start to share my screen again, okay. I have prepared my presentation, but with the start of the computer. This is the Power BI that I referred before. In terms of data mining, I use the Orange and I use the Rapid Miner. This is an example that I present to my students. This is the airlines. The data is the Microsoft data is a tutorial, but this is very interesting because I can analyze the data in airports and define the departure delay. For example, I choose an airport and I see what is the airline who have more delay. For example, to TIS Airport, Chicago Midway Airport, TIS Southwest is the airline that presents an average, a bigger average. For example, if I want to travel to, I don't have Bangladesh, sorry, but for example, for here, Guam, this is the United is the company that presents a bigger delay to this airport. This is an example. This is the months of the year, November and December of 2019. I can see the delays, and this is the month in December. And this is day by day in November. Sorry, I clicked a little on the left. This is the day by day on November. The graphic is the same. And this is the dashboard, is a report. And I can see the delay day by day. Now I will see again by month. This is an example. For example, in gastronomy, if I have some minutes. For example, taking in consideration the sustainable development goals and to decrease the food that are not consumed. This is an example. These I have restaurants. This is the restaurant. This is the examples of the food. This is my employees. This is the days of the week. For example, breads. I know what is prepared is the dark blue and what is the consumed. The difference between prepared and consumed going to garbage. In this restaurant, when I saw cheese, my opinion is in this restaurant, I should decrease the preparation of the bread. This is an example. I have others, for example, in this is quantity prepared, consumed. I can see which are not consumed, and this is the most interesting. That is over the year. That is the difference between prepared, consumed, and the quantity left. I don't know if I have time to show another example.
Please proceed.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I have to open also the file. I have the files all open when I start, but when I restart the computer, they are closed. Sorry. The next example is about the reputation in hospitality. That is opening, I hope. Okay. The data was collected by my students from Booking. I give a date to collect the data, and the reputation are collected from the Booking. To a date in Portugal. The hotels are from Portugal, but it can be applied to a hotel in any place. It is opening. This is another example. For example, in here, I have the average price per district and stars. This is my country, Portugal. I'm here in the south, Faro. I have the regions, districts in Portuguese, or in Portugal we call districts. And this is the stars of the hotel. This is the average number of reviews. They collected also the text, but this example don't analyze the text. This is the average of cleanliness, average of amenities, average of the employees, the quality that the customers, the guests, evaluate the employees, among others. Then I can analyze these numbers by stars, for example. And as you can see, all the screen change. If I want to analyze Faro, I have the analysis of Faro. If I want Faro, the number of hotels are a few. If I analyze Lisbon, I'm here in Lisbon, and the numbers change. Okay. I have a line in the front of, okay. Another example, this is the number of hotels, also by district or cities. And this is the average hotel evaluation. The minimum are 0 and the maximum is 10. This is from booking. And this is the evaluation, for example, to Lisbon. To Faro, where I have Faro, here. And they change. Okay. This is an example. The last example that I have is customer evaluation. These examples, I intend to present the different kind of activities that coexist in the tourism industry. Hospitality, gastronomy, reputation in this case applied to hotels. And then the last example is associated to customer evaluation. This is open. I think this is the less interesting, but I have the, if it is a good client, muito crítico is a bad client, neutral, and pouco crítico is a good client. This is an example by sectors. For example, financial sector. This is an analysis of my financial sector. This is an analysis of my logistical sector, among others. Many thanks by your attention. This is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Celia. And it was really a pleasure to have you on board with us. And we are really grateful to you as you have presented a very interesting presentation for us. So before I head to the question and answering session, I would like to request Professor Dr. Sultanul Aziz to add some remark on this presentation. Professor Sultanul Aziz, thank you very much. Professor Sultanul Aziz, can you hear me? Dr. Aziz, can you hear me? Dr. Aziz? Okay, do you have can you hear me? I can see your hand. Professor Dr. Aziz, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you please unmute your microphone?
I cannot I cannot hear you.
Okay. Sakib bin
I
Alam.
cannot hear you.
Okay. Can you? Okay. Sakib bin Alam, please request Dr. Aziz to put some remark.
Trial version.
So, Dr. Aziz, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Can you
I
hear
could not
us?
hear
Trial
you.
version.
So, do you have any?
I cannot hear you. It is
Trial
unmuted.
version.
It's a question. It's a question.
Proceed. Proceed. Yeah.
Okay. So we are trying to connect it with Professor Dr.
Version.
Aziz, but we are having some sort of network issue. So I would like to begin with the question and answering session. On that question and answering session,
Trial version.
I do have a question from Sakib bin Alam. So Sakib, could you please begin with your question?
Trial version.
Hello, ma'am. Can you listen to me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. This is the first the first question that comes to my mind. That what's your analytical research says that about how many years do you need to come back in the previous what we can say that before the pandemic we were in the tourism sector, we were in the which type of situation, and now we are now having many types of problems. So how many years do you we need to come back actually? What's your analytical science say? Because as I see that you are engineer and your expertise in business intelligence. So what do you think? How many years should we need?
To learn or to collect the data? I don't understand your question.
To come back actually from this pandemic, to come back strongly, to be to make the hotel industry and tourism industry normal as it was before the pandemic. What do you think? How many years do you need?
To normalize?
Yes, to normalize like as before.
I think the tourism will be different. For example, the Professor Alfonso referred that some rural areas have more tourists now. I think the tourism will be modified, will be different, but more or less, if the people feel that are safe to travel, in 3 to 5 years, we will normalize the tourism. What is important is the safety. If the tourists feel safety, it is a safety destination, they will travel to the destination.
Okay, hopefully we'll come back strongly within the 3 or 4 years. Actually, there is another question. I think you faced this question many times. That how did you come back to tourism industry, being a computer science engineer? Actually, that's the question from my mind. Actually.
Oh, it is a funny answer, because when I did my graduation, hello. I do a candidature to University of the Algarve. I don't know this structure, and I enter in the management school, hospitality, tourism, and management school. I fall in that school, and then I start to learn about tourism. I did my master's thesis with information systems to support decision making in the planning of the tourism for the region. And then I think it is my life. I don't find the right words in English, but it is more or less my destination. I don't choose. It's my life that prepared the way.
Okay, I think destiny sometimes give us the way. Yes. I think it is your answer. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have some communication with Professor Dr. Aziz, so he can't hear us, but he is going to talk to us.
Okay.
I am unmuting. Do you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Because I lost the last part of the presentation, I was very impressed with the diversity of presentations and the complexity and big organizations handling, and also the situation where all this data mining and collecting and then working with it. I had been trying to do some medical data of Bangladesh Diabetic Association. Group of people came from America, and we couldn't figure out the data clearing. It would be such a big element that we didn't venture into that. I really congratulate the team, Yusuf Khan and your team, to have invited such a distinguished speaker in such versatile, complex fields that I am literally afraid of interacting with such distinguished people, with such complex things that the presentation contained. To me, it looked like it's a whole course. It's like a whole course, not just a presentation like this. Thank you very much, Dr. Celia Ramos. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Aziz. So if you have any more questions for this session from the audience, you can ask your questions if you have any. Okay, Sakib bin Alam, if you want to ask another question, as you said, yeah, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Hello again.
Hello.
As this year, UNWTO, that is the World Tourism Organization, they have emphasized on the rural tourism. So my concern and my question is that how business intelligence can play a big role in rural tourism, not in the big hotel industry, not in the 5-star hotels, but in the rural tourism sectors.
In the rural sectors, you can apply the business intelligence. For example, in the meals, to when you prepare the, I think when you talk about rural tourism, you have a restaurant in the property or a bar, or you organize events, for example. Of course, it is not a big data with thousands and thousands of lines, but you have clients, for example, in a restaurant, you have technical specification of the meals, I think. In Portugal, we call the technical specification. For example, when we have a dish, they are composed by products and quantities, and you can define it is the dish more sold at Fridays or at Sundays, and you prepare your stock and your purchase in the supermarket with the results of the business intelligence. For example, in terms of the environment, also helps if you have some preparations or some products that we need to do the management of the property. You can store all the data that you have about your purchase. For example, you store all the data, the suppliers, how many what is the quantity that you spend in that day, how many times, how many hours you spend to in Portuguese is disinfectant to protect the plants, how many you pay to the employee that put the products in the plants. You store all the data. It is a rural tourism, but you need to manage your business also. If you need to, because when we, in this moment, the profit margins is very low, and you need to measure all the facts associated to the business. You need to, if you measure, then you can control where you can improve or you can spend less money, etc. You need to measure, you need to quantify, and you need to manage the data to know where you can increase your profit and decrease your money.
Thank you, ma'am. As being the science background student, is the first time I realized that science has a big role in tourism. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, both Saqib bin Alam and Professor Dr. Celia Ramos. Dr. Celia Ramos, we would like to show our gratitude to you for joining and participating at this e-Symposium and delivering your kind presentation for us. It was a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf Khan. Many thanks.
Thank you very much.